This is the AC Show, episode 30. We're going to win a BAFTA, and cheeks and checks are what we're after.
Wow, man made what's wrong with
I had
me?
to come with the intro.
He said,
You know what?
I'm gonna this week here.
You
I'm
know
gonna
what?
make
I'm actually
some
really
buzz.
holding you because I asked you, have we got anything we should prepare beforehand? And he's
Yeah,
going,
No, I had to drop it as a
off
surprise.
the top.
he's
Off
making
the
up
top.
bars on the spot.
You prepped that in front of the mirror the last 2 hours.
Like, yeah, really gonna hit it with this one. They got like this.
But yeah, no, I'd like to introduce our first guest of 2021,
Boom.
Bryan, founder of Ubunifu Space. Like, really appreciate you coming on.
Cheers.
Thank you. Appreciate it, guys.
Yeah, so I kind of just wanted to start from the beginning and just like kind of get into like how Ubunifu Space got together and like what the initial like thoughts behind it.
Yeah, I mean, the space originally, it's gone through like different phases of transformation in terms of the space, but started off in the ideas came about sort of like late part of 2016, sort of like just discussions with me and David, who's also part of the channel. And I just come back with, because that summer I'd taken David and my other guy on my team, my friend Ian, to Kenya with me. So like for David, that was like his first time in Africa. Yeah, his first time in Africa. And for both of them, it was first time in Kenya. And we came back from there, and like I think for me as well, being out there, I'd come across a lot of new music and got to meet a lot of like artists in that scene that I'd never really come across, because I think that was one of the first trips I'd gone without my parents. And you know those trips when you go to Africa with your parents, it's just family and just going all around.
Yeah, they're basically dragging you everywhere.
Non-stop.
So this is like the first time where I think I just go around and meet and connect with people, and we left there with like, there's tons of sounds that we'd never really come across before. And I know at that point I think sort of like Afrobeats was coming out still on the rise. Trying to think about 2016, what would have been the sound at that time? Probably like a WizKids,
Davido.
And I was just like, obviously Nigeria Afrobeats is coming up large, but I was like, Africa's a massive continent, and that this can't just be the sound that sort of like describes the continent. And so just talking to David, and at that time as well, we used to watch reaction videos on YouTube. The two American guys,
or they like
Zayas.
Yeah.
And we used to find them funny, and they were just like, like we should like try to do something that's similar, but like in terms of being able to showcase sort of sounds coming out of the African continent. So rather than just like putting it more of like a discovery for us as well, because for all of us, I knew some Kenyan songs, but like they were like, the classics that you see at family parties.
Yeah, the old school ones.
Yeah, not like current. And so that sort of like back end of the 2016, I was just researching, and then the idea came about because I had my cousin in Kenya at the time, and we were like, we should just do like a cultural exchange initially. So like, I was like, I'm gonna put together like a team of people over here that I feel that would be good to represent the channel, and then maybe you can put like your brother, because he had like brother and like some of his friends. So short story. I'm tired. I've been working all day, so it's been long. But basically, to summarize it, it was started off as two teams initially. So UK, I got my friends David, Ian, Shay, Ian together, and he got some of his friends and brothers, and we just started doing sort of like a cross-cultural thing. So we'd react to music coming out of East Africa initially, because obviously he was from Kenya, so he was giving us sounds that were coming out from there. And then they would react to sounds coming out from the UK. So like the UK at that time, these were the times when Section Boys and stuff were still coming through, and it was bubbling. And I remember going there and I was like, yo, guys, like UK is coming big, like you should check it out. And I remember some of his friends like, oh, nah. Because for them, it's like America or nothing really. They don't really want to check anything else. So, but my cousin, he was really kind of starting to get into it. So like, he was really into like JME gigs, that Man Don't Care. That was the time when he was like, oh yeah, the UK is sick. So from that point on, they started to do like their reaction to UK, and then it went from there. But on his side, it was like a bit inconsistent. So after a while, we stopped their reaction and we just continued with our sort of direction. So we just sort of like, you know what, rather than sort of East Africa, let's now just sort of now reach a wider goal of doing Africans from across the continent, like East, South, Central, even West, with like, but not like the mainstay names. So like I remember our earliest Wests that we did, we tried to sort of really get into the out scene. So we were doing like Odinsi and Santi and that scene from early in
The
terms of like
Alte
scene.
Yeah.
And then we were like, let's just reach sounds from the diaspora. And so it's developed from that really. So like the space now is like, I'd summarize, it's a digital space showcasing sounds from across the African continent and the diaspora as well.
That's
sick.
It's pretty sick.
Like what were the initial aims with the channel? Because like it's sick how you've been able to grow it like to over 200K now. So like when you were starting, like what were the initial aims?
I think the initial aims were really like, we just wanted to like do something fun with like a group of friends really. It was just like, let's just sit and watch videos and like record. There wasn't like, we want to build like a empire or anything like that. It was literally, we're a group of friends, we're all from different parts of Africa. We actually do have an interest in trying to find out more from within the continent and see what sounds are coming out. And let's just sit and react, like, and that's literally how sort of the initial direction was. And then very quickly it just started to grow, like very quickly, bigger than we like. I remember the first meeting I had them where I was like actually pitching the idea. I was like, if we could get like maybe like 2K subs by the end of the year, like I'd be happy, kind of thing. And I think end of the first year, I think we were on like 55K or something.
That's
yeah,
crazy.
That's mad.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think you guys kind of hit at a nice time because it was kind of like when the Afrobeats wave was kind of coming over to the UK. Like you had the Afro swing, you had like as you said, Wizkid, Davido, even Burna Boy was in like his early stages as well.
Yeah. It was a nice moment, like in terms of like you had now it's sort of coming back to me because these are the periods where like Mr. Easy, Skin Tight, all these sort of tunes were coming through, and then that's what sort of gave the direction of Afro swing with Notes, and OGJ Huss had been here for a while, and then like it was just the sort of growth because when it comes to Afrobeats, in terms of the growth of Afrobeats, the UK very much accelerated it in terms of the early days. I'm going back to the Banj days and DJ Brantree kind of thing. But like with the Afro swing, it kind of then gave it like a shift to now, not to say that Afro swing directed sort of especially the mainstream sounds of Afrobeats now, but it kind of gave a direction to the sounds you kind of feel with Wizkid and Burna Boy now, which are what the sort of dominant sounds of Afrobeats, which is the merging. If you were to link in what Wizkid and what we're doing, like that period was like just after the AO project, and it was just before the sounds of the other side, I believe, when we kind of sort of launched that you can kind of see the sort of direction it kind of went. And so it was I think it was just a very unique moment that we came in at the time and just developed it from there.
Do you think you've done anything different from other channels? Because you do find a lot of channels did similar things to that, but obviously I've not got to the level that you are now. Do you think there's anything you did differently, or do you just think that maybe it was just kind of I don't know?
I'd say that in terms of what we did different, the one thing I can say it's early days is that we were just very driven and consistent. Like we just were dropping. I mean, it's obviously as we've grown because we'd all just left uni at that point. So like when you like first year when you leave uni, it's like trying to if you don't find a job, you're then that you're finished. Just try. So it's just free time. You just so we just had time to spare. So we were just banging out videos, and it was fun. I think those are the consistency and the amount we were putting out, and I think I always say like one thing about us is that we always try to be sort of authentic and not to put on anything. We just wanted to show that within this group, we're not all going to say, yes, we love a song. There's going to be one or two that may not love the song, and that's absolutely fine. But honest. that's the dynamics of a group. And I guess the dynamics of a group is what I think a lot of people maybe saw, like, they probably saw maybe their friendship group or they felt they were part of our group or kind of thing. And I think that's what kind of maybe, I think if you can sell an idea of a group, it can do well on YouTube. And I'm not saying it's like unlock
The
key.
golden ticket.
But like you look at anything like Nella Rose, you look at how her rise was. It was literally the whole, the group concept of talking and camera discussing things. So when you can do that, people kind of buy into the group dynamics, seeing the different opinions, and then they kind of see like their friends and themselves in these groups. And I think I feel that's maybe how people look at, and maybe that's maybe part of our success. But I do think it was initial, just our consistency, I guess, especially at the beginning. Yeah.
I think consistency is key. I do think a lot of people, when they start channels or if they start any kind of like I say like side hustle or anything, you're not consistent, and without knowing it, you being consistent may take you to that next level. So I think again, you guys have definitely proved it where you've been consistent, and it's something that's grown and grown and grown. You haven't stopped; you kept going. So I think that's definitely something that a lot of people can take, take a lot of stock from, which is sick.
Yeah, 100%. When it comes to content creation, I mean, for us as we've grown, it's obviously become a bit harder to be as maybe as consistent as it was when you started, because like we were like churning out like 5 videos a week, like ridiculous amounts for a period. But we still try to put out what we can. Obviously now some of us are working and whatnot, so it's a lot harder. But definitely being consistent is one of the key things to growth. If you do one video and it blows up and you don't post again for another 2 or 3 months, you can't expect to. You have to just still push out as much as you can.
I've got a question though. How are you finding it with like obviously working or whatnot? How are you finding that balance of having to work and then having to obviously balance doing this as well? Or is there a case that you got to a point where that's your full-time job, or do you know what I mean? How do you kind of balance?
Yeah, it's tough. At points it is tough. Like especially like this whole lockdown, the longer it's gone on, it's a bit tough, because it's like before you had that kind of thing where you maybe go out for a bit or like meet, whereas now you're just literally indoors. So like for me, it's like I'd do obviously work 9 till 5, and then it's to do like literally then after that it's then doing something for Ubunifu because it needs to be done. Otherwise, like so it can be tough, but at the end of the day, like it's just I enjoy it, and I can't, it's tough, but the fact that you enjoy it, you just do it. You know what I'm trying to say? It's not really, it's not like, homework that you had after school homework when you were young and it was like, fuck, you want to go on the PlayStation or you want to go online or something like that. It's like, for me, it's just like, I enjoy it. It's tough, but I like, it's just the fun and like seeing how people receive our stuff, whether it's the content or whatnot. It's a nice feeling, to be fair. So I enjoy that aspect of it.
I was going to ask you actually, because I watched one of your the docu-series that you've obviously been releasing. I mean, I just wanted to know, like, what was the idea behind that? Because I watched the sort of Johannesburg episode today.
Okay.
So yeah, I just wanted to know, like, what was your sort of inspiration behind that, and I guess what you're trying to sort of achieve with that as well.
Yeah, yes. I mean, with the Uber tour, the sort of direction behind it was that we didn't want to just be one of those, because as a reaction channel, I guess initially how people perceive us is that we don't want to seem that we just do reactions and that's it, and like we're not trying to understand things better. And I think generally there's no other better way of experiencing or understanding sounds or culture or where they come from by actually going there. Like us watching videos doesn't make us understand it as well as maybe we could. Yeah. So the direction was literally like, we want to create like a series of being able to travel to the regions of these various sounds and actually experience the culture, the people, interact with them, understand what's going on and how these inspirations come about by actually being in the countries. And that was it. There was literally, I mean, for us, South Africa was our first choice because I think it was more of, in terms of the sound that we were coming across, the sort of like back in the 2019 going to 2020, it was 2019. Sorry, I'm trying to get my dates right. 2018, end of 2018 going to 2019. The sound that was coming out from, we were getting like a lot of requests was Amapiano, and then we came across at the early part of 2019, late 2018 and early part of 2019, and it was just like an amazing sound, and like the fact that it's all unique and raw and fresh, and like then speaking to people online, you kind of like hear kind of not similarities, but how people talk about how grime was trying to push its way through in the early days of its inception, and like how mainstream media kept sort of like maybe blackballing it or not really like embracing it. that was very similar to the Amapiano scene, and like we were just very sort of like, because we loved it, and we were just like, we have to go to South Africa. And in South Africa, compared to maybe other regions, music there is a massive thing of their culture. Like maybe similar to how maybe here in the UK football is, like music is their bread and butter, and that's what they live for. And at the end of the year, they're obviously, like in a lot of African countries, December is like their time to just like, you know, enjoy and sort of vibe. And at the end of the year, they normally have like a tradition of like song of the year. So like the best song of that year is the song that takes them from the 29th, like end of the new year, so 31st going into the new year. So like we managed to get to South Africa in December, when I guess the Amapiano genre was really just enjoying like its first proper summer, and people embracing it. And it was an amazing experience like for us. And yeah, we enjoyed it a lot, I can't lie.
Because I was going to say, like, there's so many. I mean, I know this from producing myself, but there's so many artists in the UK now that are looking to like Africa for, you know, everything from samples to, you know, drum sounds. I mean, even with Guam as well, that's been huge in the UK. I mean, the amount of like even like raves that I've been to where there's been like a Guam tune dropped by like a house DJ, and you would not expect it, and it's just like just kind of thrown it in. I mean, you know, how do you feel about, like, I guess more producers in the UK are kind of looking to Africa for that sound as well? I mean, it must be quite exciting.
I mean, it is exciting. It's a good thing. I mean, with Gom, as they say, say it in SA. It's
or,
like
or G-Quam, as they like to call it.
G-Quam, that's how I call it. It's G-Quam.
I'm not gonna lie, I used to call it G-Com. Don't judge me.
Yeah,
no,
I got
we used to do it as well.
Slack it.
Honestly, and I actually DJ this stuff.
I know, man would have been roasting you if you went out there.
I swear. Thank you for telling me before the interview, by the way.
No, we went to Durban, and they were schooling us. They were like, because it's obviously Zulu, so they're like, the Q is like a click. It's not like a, so you say, you catch a G, and then I don't know how, I'm not even doing it right. I won't lie to you guys. I'm just like, I'm maybe 70% there, but they say you say the G, and then the Q is a click, and then so but obviously those explain better. But no, it's a good thing. Like, it's a great thing that obviously, like, you know, a lot of spotlight is on Africa. And it, I mean, I think obviously, like, music has cycles and whatnot, but I think at the moment the spotlight is due to obviously Afrobeats. The main sort of like hub of it is Afrobeats, of course. But I think in terms of what like platforms like us and many others are trying to do is to try highlight the various sounds. And, like, you know, with it was, I think its growth was like, it was before Amapiano, so was very much from the early sort of like 2011 in Durban, and then it's sort of grown from there. And in terms of like Black Panther, that was a perfect example of like, within that film you heard numerous sounds that were coming out from that film, and that helped the growth there. But you do find, I mean, the spotlight is good, but you do also find that there's people that have tried to take advantage. So I don't know if you saw recently the whole situation with DJ
Will.i.am.
They took DJ Lags,
just took the whole song and did it. literally just took copy and paste. So I mean, there's good pros and cons are obviously situations like that where they will just try to erase. And I think that's one of the worries that, you know, where new sounds have been discovered, that you don't want to have that situation where people that actually have created it and, you know, have actually given it the platform are then erased from it, and then a big, you know, someone from the US just takes it and uses it, and then he's playing at his clubs, and the people that actually who created it and who have actually don't get any recognition or any sort of like, you know, remuneration. So
that happens to a lot of Black music, to be fair. Like,
general, unfortunately.
Black music in general is always kind of exploited, manipulated, and then, you know, then it just moves on to the next thing, bro. So it's a shame that happens.
And no, this is true, and it's not even like in Black, but it's interesting that it happens even within the Black music. So like what you're talking about now is like, it's happening currently with the whole discussion I have with people that I know that listen to Amapiano. So obviously Amapiano, Pretoria, Johannesburg is where it's originated from, and like obviously Cabs of the Small and those have pushed that. But what you're seeing now is that Amapiano's caught on so much. I think more mainstream than did, if I'm being perfectly honest. And you're seeing now mainstream Afrobeats artists have literally taken it on. And a perfect example, and to be fair, he did a great job, and I'm not gonna even knock him, is Rima with Woman. Like that's basically I'm a piano through and through if you break it down. But what you're having is that if Nigerians are like taking it, and a lot of people in South Africa are worried that the actual creators who actually come are not really going to be acknowledged, because a lot of these things are actually trending more. So, because what they do is, as a producer in Nigeria, what I've heard they do, they literally just find a producer in SA, say they pay him and say, create this piano, and then they just add like little chords here, and then they put the song out. So and they don't even credit, it's because the payment's sort of like an NDA per se. So
I wouldn't be surprised. That's been happening in music.
And the thing with that is that people in the West, they'll just call that Afrobeats, innit? They won't even call that Amapiano.
Yeah,
So
even me
that's
myself.
the danger.
That's the thing with, especially with African music, it tends to different genres just kind of spring out all the time. So if you haven't got your finger on the pulse with African music, you'll always be out the loop. So even me, I didn't really know that Amapiano even came from South Africa like that. The first time I've heard it would have been on Nigerian tunes. So even for me,
I mean, that's the thing. That's the thing. It's not even a bad thing, but it's like,
yeah, of course.
It's the nature of it. Like you wouldn't have until you heard that. So like, unless there's people, and like that's I think the way we try to come as much as we can and like try to push it more, is that unless people are actually saying this is where it's coming from, then at least you're gonna see a real growth. Because what you'll find is producers in Nigeria will take it, they'll use it, and then when it's no longer maybe the sound, and because the people that have created it haven't been able to sort of like maybe develop themselves further, maybe develop a sound further, they just sort of fade away, and then before you know it's like it's faded away back into sort of like, you know, a sound that happened. So
because I mean, I'm always curious about like, because especially from like a music production perspective and sampling and how people get rights to music. I mean, do you think I mean, obviously, it's never a good thing what happens with the DJ lag situation, because that was, I mean, quite rightly fucked, to be honest. Like, I mean, you're basically taking someone's tune and you're saying it's your own. But I mean, is this a conversation that, you know, kind of needed to be had anyway? And obviously, this is kind of the catalyst for it. Because I know, like, I think recently I saw something about Timbaland trending on Twitter about him.
I saw that. That was funny.
About him sampling a lot of like Middle Eastern music and stuff, and kind of not really clearing the samples. It was kind of just like replaying them and stuff. I mean, is it kind of almost slightly a positive thing that happened? And obviously DJ Lag has obviously had, you know, that sorted now and stuff. Do you think it will actually help other artists out in the future, or do you just think it's just going to continue?
I think I mean, I think the problem is when it happens is that this sort of sampling thing happens all the time, and like some people actually do it the right way and some people don't, unfortunately. And the DJ Lag thing, I guess, maybe gave artists, I don't know if it's like more African wide, but more artists maybe from like South Africa, the knowledge that if they're able to push out the information, and social media can actually cause, you know, the sort of like push for justice in a sense. Because unfortunately, when it comes to, let's say, artists from the Western world, if it was an artist from America, maybe sampling something from like a house song from the UK, they know they can't just do that, because they know they'll be slapped with copyright, because the infrastructure is incorrect, like set up correctly in these places. Whereas like in like maybe in sort of like South Africa and Nigeria, like the labels are there, but maybe the infrastructure around sort of like sampling copyright is still not set through. So like these things can slip through. So like a perfect example of where maybe a sound that was utilized, and maybe if it wasn't for social media, they would never known. Destruction Boys released Omunye, which if you come, you would know that sound. That is actually a DJ Lag beat. If you listen to it, DJ Lag created a beat that Destruction Boys just took and added a few things and then took it. But I mean, I don't know how big, but it was big in South Africa, and they let us know that DM and all that sort of stuff. But these stuff happen until people actually, like, you know, use social media. These things, they don't get justice, unfortunately, and it's because the infrastructure is not set up. And it's one of those things where we can only talk about it and try to spread news, but until like the actual systems in place and things are built up so that it can protect artists, these things unfortunately are going to happen a lot more because, yeah, it's going to happen more to artists within Africa than it would happen to a Western artist because they have have the apparatus behind them to protect them from.
Yeah.
You can't go and you can't even sample like you couldn't like for example you wouldn't do that with an Adele song. You
No,
couldn't sample
Oh
that.
yeah,
You know,
no.
you,
So
you touch a
massively.
song.
oh bro, your whole team gets shut down.
You
You
get
get
a
banned for
lawsuit. You'll get a 6-figure
Yeah.
lawsuit.
But
I think even didn't Nicki Minaj get sued as well for
Yes.
sampling Tracy Chapman, but not even sampling. It was like she basically said she put out a tweet 2 years ago saying this will be huge for the industry if we can't even like re-record vocals. And obviously Tracy Chapman's lyrics are used widely. Like a lot of house music uses it. And obviously the minute Nicki Minaj does it, but doesn't even release the track, just sends it to Flex in the US and goes, I'll play this. But there was a whole legal case off the back of it.
I remember, yeah.
So it's it's a very hostile environment right now, I guess. But I'm glad in a way that the conversations are being had, I think.
But I think especially in music, things only tend to happen if the person in power has a vested interest in you doing well. So where, you know, if like an artist like Adele, it makes sense for them not to want anyone else to use the music unless they have their say so.
Yeah.
Like versus a artist from, you know, South Africa who doesn't have the money, is not part of a team, doesn't have a label. So someone can just take his music, and if you can't take him to court or sue him, there's literally nothing that can happen. And
Yeah.
obviously social media is okay and it's good, but there's going to be artists where, let's say Beyonce did it, for example. No one's really going to cancel Beyonce for using DJ Lagbeat. They're just going to be like, oh, whoa, it's inspiration. So
Exactly.
it's a shame, but it's kind of, you know, I think with African music, we need to, well, I say we, but it needs to be a better infrastructure for the music, because the music's there, so which means the money's there. So they can do it. It's just a case of they need to kind of do it in a better way. But
it comes down to governments, because this is the problem where we talk about African governments. A lot of African governments are old men that don't understand, you know, what's happening on the ground.
bruv,
And if they understood what was happening on the ground, they would have they would have seen this sort of the growth of African music and seen how much their culture has been exported through music. Like, I use a perfect example. America, they know the hip hop, the black music culture is their biggest export of their culture. So
they let them do it.
They let them do what, because they just know that that's how they're going to export the American culture worldwide. So if the African leaders could have seen this sort of steady growth of African music, because it's been evident for the last, where are we now, 20?
I would say though as well, the a lot of African music from the youth anyway is always quite aggressive towards the government. And you know, with a lot of African men in power, well, especially in Nigeria, they're very, very like big.
They don't like,
ego is massive for them. So you know, they're not gonna let like a Naira Marley who's been saying fuck the government. Oh yeah, I'm gonna let him now do his thing. Now I'm gonna show him why. But they don't realize that if they just played along, they themselves, it was a win-win for everybody. The tax they would bring in, the jobs they would bring in, all for these massive concerts. But instead, your ego wouldn't let you. It's a shame, but it happens all over Africa anyway.
It happens all over, and that'll be the thing that holds back that's kind of holds back the creative aspect within the African music scene. In terms of, it's a shame, but what can you do?
Yeah, and I kind of wanted to get into, like, obviously in the West, like, it seems like Afrobeats has blown up. So do you think it'd be possible for the same to happen to genres in South Africa, like, for example, Goma and Mapiano? Do you think they have the potential to do the same?
Yeah, I mean, it was in a clubhouse room like a couple of weeks ago with people like Jules and stuff, and we were talking about it, and we were talking about sort of like, obviously Afrobeats has been really big and prominent, and Gom was really big, and it's like at the time Gom was really sort of big with Black Panther. That period, I remember it was really big, and it was sort of, but I think with Gom it's a lot more higher tempo, and it's a very, I mean, if you view it to like the wider public, it's maybe not as palatable as like Amapiano. Like Amapiano, we're talking, it has a lot more sort of slowed down a bit. So like it kind of, especially here in the UK, it kind of, if you listen to it, as certain songs can remind you of UK Funky House, that period of Funky House and whatnot, which was like a period everyone seems to talk about, like what happened to Funky House per se. But like those aspects are what maybe kind of sell in Amapiano, and I guess it's one of the reasons why Amapiano has kind of crossed over a lot more into mainstream better than Gom. Because Gom you can still find in clubs. You can find clubs whether it's like in all over Europe, like whether it's in UK, whether it's in Germany, Holland, they're all over. Like you can find these clubs, but it's like because of the sort of maybe it's like very hard hitting and it's kind of hard for maybe general ears to catch on. Whereas Amapiano is a lot more smoother. You get vocals, you get like your house vocals that you can get. It's more sort of interlinked to deep house or like Ibiza house kind of thing. But like there's elements where you can still have energy and whatnot, which you kind of see. So we were talking about, and we were saying, if it wasn't for Corona, we definitely feel that
that's what I was gonna say.
Would have blown in over the summer because of the fact of just how the sound traveled, and also like just there's just different aspects that kind of put it to a point where if summer happened, it would have blown. Like Kabza put out the album with the Bononyo song with Wizkid and Burna, which like they would have performed wherever it may have been at festivals here, and then like you just had like aspects of like just the sounds, and like obviously Jules jumped on Soweto Blues, which was like, you know, Jules' Afrobeat that put a lot of people on using his platform. And yeah, just speaking to people, that there's loads of people, there's just different sounds in Amapiano that people latch onto. Like there's very hard hitting still, but like I don't know if you listen to, there's an artist called Vigor Deep. He released a song with vocalist K Star. That one's very hard hitting. So like if I say it was very, that would maybe come across to that side. But then you also have like very sort of mellow sounds like Jazzy Disciples. There's an artist we're putting out a piece tomorrow on our website, which is like 21 artists to watch out for. And there's an artist called Kelvin Momo who's like really coming through, and he's very sort of like smooth jazz saxophones with like Amapiano. So like, and these are different categories of people that they can hit with it, whereas almost very much one direction. So if you didn't get it, that was it. With Amapiano, you've got like your smooth people. So like my girlfriend,
she's more varied.
Yeah, like my girlfriend's not even really into like foreign sounds as much as me. So like she's like, if it's not English, I don't I don't know. But like not having it. But like yeah, literally I tell her that. But she's like she likes a lot of jazz, and she kind of like really gravitates. She likes a lot of the Amapiano that's like the jazz, which for me is foreign because she's never really been like, oh, what song's that, until I start playing. I mean, she's like, oh, I like that. Whereas like known in the group, for instance, like people like Shay, I know, and Ian, they like more of the hard hitting, like the Vigor Deep, sometimes MFR Souls, they like that. So there's just different audiences that you can tend to. And then now with Focalist, he's brought more of like a rapping over Amapiano vibe, which is now put a lot of, if you follow the South African music scene, a lot of the hip hop acts I'm hearing now that a lot of them, like before they had the lockdown, they weren't getting bookings no more because like people just want Amapiano. They don't want a hip hop rave. They want Amapianos. So like you're seeing a lot of hip hop guys now even jumping onto Amapiano sounds and rapping over. So you're seeing now this wave of like people rapping over Amapiano, and that's these different directions. Is like, I'm like, on the soulful side, you could have easily a vocalist jump on. Like I always say, like how Georgia Smith was on the Black Coffee song, well, not Black Coffee, but the Drake sample Black Coffee. Yeah. She could easily be on Amapiano. So you can have that kind of vocalist side on the smooth side. You then have like people rapping over Amapiano. So if you had like a smooth, like you could have someone rapping over Amapiano, and then you've got the hard hitting one. I don't think anyone can really replicate apart from someone from South Africa, if I'm being perfectly honest. So that's like, I leave that for them. But these different audiences, I feel, just serve for different audiences, which allow for a bigger pool of people to get drawn into the sound. And unfortunately, because of Corona, but I think it would have definitely blown this summer, last summer.
Yeah, I heard it was gaining heat as well. And obviously, with the festivals, the raves, the clubs,
the
like
sun,
that would have,
sun, yeah.
I would have pushed it through nicely.
Yeah. And also like Afro Nation.
Oh yeah, that would have been the perfect
honestly
time.
catalyst.
Yeah, I've definitely noticed with even like clubs and the stuff, and festivals being shut, that I feel like everyone's getting more creative with just genres anyway, because I feel like there's a lot of sub-genres that are coming out of every sound. I mean, we were actually talking on the last podcast, and I think actually last night as well, about how even like drill has got like variations of it now. So, you know, how do you feel about like, I guess like all the sort of subgenres coming out and people sort of making their own versions of it? Because I mean, even like drill's got like there's like a resurgence now of obviously that sound anyway, but with more of like an R&B sound attached to it. So yeah, how do you feel that about that?
I think it's happened because of the nature of Corona. I think it's just the whole situation of the first lockdown kind of made us all just have to be indoors and think a lot more and like, you know, actually study and whatnot. And I think it's a good thing because like, I think every genre needs to develop. Like you can't just have, and I think that sometimes happens. What's wrong with, not wrong, but like where a lot of grime purists complain about maybe grime or like maybe just want grime to sound how it used to sound in, you know, back in like 07 or whatever. Like, yeah, no, but it has to, sound has to develop. And I don't know what you guys think, but I was listening to something and I actually agreed. Like someone was mentioning that they feel the drill that we're in now kind of has like come back into more of a grime feel, like in terms of like if you talk about the drill that was happening back in the early 2015 with like M Dog and all that,
that's different.
Where it was what you got now, the BPM sped up a lot more. People are actually, whereas before it was like, you know, very similar to Chicago drill where you're just like rapping over like very smooth. Whereas now it's like people are really not fighting the beat, but they're really rapping and it's going for it, attacking it a lot more.
There's definitely a lot. I've definitely noticed that even with because I remember like when I was in secondary school, I used to watch a lot of Channel U, and I feel like even with like I guess the YouTube generation, you're seeing a lot of artists like posting their own music videos, all of that stuff, and it's very DIY. And I think that's kind of the good thing that's come out with even like the COVID thing is people just being creative in their bedrooms, outside with cameras, like just doing whatever they can really to keep things going.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things where like I think it for a lot of us, it's allowed us to see what our capabilities are, like in terms of like, when you're pushed back onto a wall, like how do you come out of that corner kind of thing. And it's made a lot of us think of how we have to create and put things out, because unfortunately in this age where you are with the internet, everyone's literally on their phones, especially during lockdown. If you don't post it, unless you're a A-list artist and you can afford not to post anything up, if you don't post anything up, people forget about you and just move to the next person, unfortunately. So you have to really think in and outside the box, I guess. And I guess that's why you have like you talked about your R&B drill and like these sort of variants coming through, because I think it's just allowed people to be like, you know what, I might just try this. There's no harm trying out this, rather than the fear of like, is this gonna bang in a show, or is it like, it's just like, let's just put it out there, see how people receive it and go from there.
Yeah, and kind of going back onto the tour, obviously we haven't seen the episode yet, but I saw you also were in Kenya as well. So I kind of wanted to ask like what that was like, and like are there any like genres coming from that region as well?
Yeah, I mean Kenya, within East Africa, what you have is it's like I'll try to give you like a quick split, and I'll try to go more in depth into Kenya. But in East Africa, obviously Swahili is like the dominant language within there. So like if you go from Kenya, Tanzania, Uganda, Rwanda, Burundi, even into Congo, it's like Swahili is the consumable language. And the biggest artist from there is, I would say, is Diamond Platnumz from Tanzania. He's like his fan base is silly. He has like his YouTube subscribers is like 3 million subscribers. And like he's those artists that just get like stupid amount of views in like 24 hours, like I don't know,
they
like
just got Fanatics,
5 million, Fanatics. That's what he has, and he blows. And he makes more of a bongo. It's called bongo flavor, which is, if I was to give you a understanding, it's like if you were to listen to rumba. I don't know if you guys ever heard rumba, like African rumba. Like it's more like Congolese. It's like a slower version of Lingala. So if you heard like Lingala sounds from Congolese, it's slowed down. Maybe similar to, in Angola, Kizomba, the one that they always dance slow to. It's very similar to that. So that's bongo flavor, but and that's what a lot of the mainstream in East Africa consume, to be fair. And then obviously Afrobeats is another. But in Kenya, what you have is because Diamond is like the dominant, no one's really touching Diamond. No one can even get into that market. You have like hip hop, drill. There's a big R&B scene. Like R&B, to fair, is quite a big sort of sound there. Like a lot of people, artists are venturing into R&B. And then you have a genre there, which is like a more Kenyan sound, which is called Gengatone, which is it's like a mixture of like dancehall, reggae, and sort of like Sheng, which is like a Kenyan sound, which was like rap with Swahili slang and whatnot. Those are like probably the sounds you hear a lot of, but I'd say in terms of it's different markets. I don't know how to, it's very complicated. I tried to make it simple, but you have like the cool kids, if I'll put it that way, cool kids, which are like more like they live in like, the nice suburbs and whatnot. These are the ones that are like, they probably maybe do R&B and more trap and whatnot. And then now you're having some of them even now coming on to drill, doing the drill sound as well. And then you've got like more of like the kids from like the actual like just the streets, and like they talk like they do like Gengaton, and that's like the sound of the streets basically in Kenya. So and then you have like hip hop, and like hip hop has always been a mainstay in Kenya. And then that's really sort of the things you kind of sound you get from within Kenya. It's an interesting mix. It's not like it's not like a Nigeria or like maybe a South Africa where there's like one dominant sound that's pushing through. There's like little pockets across like here that people, and from those pockets I guess you just pick what artists you're really feeling from those pockets.
Yeah, I think it'll probably be because it was probably the same like in Nigeria or South Africa back in the day, but then just slowly they evolved in their own sound. So probably like a similar thing will happen.
Yeah, I mean that's the problem with Kenya. Like being a Kenyan and sort of speaking to creators in Kenya, it's always been a discussion of like what is a Kenyan sound, because Kenya went through a period where like there was like a lot of soul searching, because a lot of the time you'd hear Nigerian Afrobeats playing, and like a lot of like maybe people that want to play Kenyan or hear Kenyan music, they were like, if you go to Nigeria, you hear 90% Nigerian sounds, like they embrace their own, whereas maybe in Kenya they don't really embrace their own on the radio and whatnot. And I think that's one of the reasons, because the radio is so dominant there. Like how the UK maybe like in the first decade of 2000s, the media like radio and the MTV base were the most dominant, and then like that's how you start having Channel U, and then like when now like Grime Daily and Link Up came through, it kind of switched the dynamics of, and SBTV switched the dynamics of how people could push out their music and what mainstream had to consume. And as they became big, the one extras and whatnot just had to comply with what sound people were listening to. And I think places like Kenya, they're still going through that phase of like radio's much like king there. So, and they play like generally like whatever people on Afrobeats
it's the
and
mainstream
whatnot
stuff then basically. And
so until they can switch that tide and like get like the one sound that can actually spring through and actually show via internet and whatnot that this is what, it's still going to be a bit of like here there, hit or miss. And because Kenya is like, I would say music is big there, but it's not always like the king. Like SA in Kenya, like how Nigeria and whatnot. So Nigerian SA, sorry, how their like music and the artists are like, they're like God levels. Like you see that video of that guy Naira Marley, or that video of that when that video was in the hotel.
Scandalous.
When Davido was in the hotel,
Davido.
Like he was a demigod or something.
I swear, disgrace.
But that's how they view, and that's why the music is so
why
big
do you
there.
think? Why do you think it's not like that? Because I don't know, maybe because Nigerian music has always been quite popular. People have always maybe always respected it for what it was. Why do you think it's not really the same in Kenya? Because realistically, if you like, maybe I'm just being stupid, but like maybe if you've got like the biggest artist in your country, surely your own people would want to rep that. You know what I mean? Rep that artist.
Yeah. With Kenya, it's such a complex thing, and it would take so much to unpack it. But I would say within Kenya, it's a lot of people will embrace you when they feel to embrace you, and when they don't want to embrace you, it's like sheep. Like everyone will just follow that. You know what I'm trying to say? It's not like you know, it's not like in Nigeria, for instance, where you've got Wizkid FC, you've got 30 Billion Gang, like, and like, you know, they'll be forever, but at the end of the day, music is king. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, music still wins.
When within Kenya, if they don't like you, or if you do something to piss them off as an artist, they just won't like it. They'll try to they'll just cancel you, and like they and they'll just leave music. Do you know what I'm trying to say? Like it's not a mainstay. It's such a confusing thing because I've talked about it to so many people. Why? Because in Kenya you got groups like Sauti Sol. Like Sauti Sol is probably like the biggest band in Kenya, and for them, like sometimes they have good times where people embrace them, and sometimes they have times when people just, you know, don't like try to discriminate or hate on them kind of thing. And it's one of those, I just don't know. Like the nature of Kenya is if you blow outside of Kenya, that's when people respect you. Unfortunately, it's never really like if you blow within Kenya.
People are actually sheep in real life, you know.
No, that's what I'm trying to say. Like it's unfortunate.
Not just in Kenya, it's in the whole world. People are just generally like that.
Yeah, but that's serious because, like, if you're an artist and you're doing really good songs, so like I'll give you a perfect example. There's an artist that like in Kenya that she's a singer, and she does R&B, and like R&B is like, you know, maybe not like a big sound there per se, but she's been doing that. She's been doing it sick for a long time, and it only came out like last year, or like I can't remember, like mid last year, that she was a songwriter, and she actually got credits for songwriting on Tiana Taylor's album.
Oh man!
And when that came out, people were like, like what kind of thing. But like she'd been putting music out for time. Like it wasn't that she started doing that Tiana Taylor. She'd been putting that for time. But it's all like, do you understand? It's only when things like that, or like there's something that where they line like,
where they get like a cosign or something.
Cosign that this person is like the one, which is unfortunate. And I think that's what's happening. Kenya's still going through the soul searching, and until people can embrace like a sound and just champion it, not regardless of like whether you like the artist or you're not, and you're just there to push the artist because they represent your own. Yeah, but there's dope artists. Don't get me wrong. There's dope artists that are coming out. It's just that they've probably got bigger fan bases outside of Kenya than they do within Kenya. That's the nature of it. Yeah.
I guess at the time the UK was there because like back in the, let's say the early 90s, all the UK rappers, they were trying to sound American and go over to America.
Yeah.
It's like
everyone goes through that phase. Like you know, even I don't not to always go back, but because I was just there, so I can kind of like, people have talked about it. But like in SA, it was like hip hop was like quite a very dominant sound. Like you obviously got Nasty C, and you know he signed to Def Jam and whatnot. But
he's cold.
It was a thing where there was always like people would be like, you know, what defines us? Do you know what I'm trying to say? There's this big debate. What defines us is you know, hip hop, our sound kind of thing. And now you're having this huge debate because like an artist like Focalist he's originally a hip hop artist, but he just started to rap on Amapiano, and now the hip hop people hate him. They're like, we don't want you to come back to hip hop. But because he's made Amapiano so big, like he wants to do hip hop, but Amapiano is where people are like, bro, you're killing Amapiano. It wouldn't make sense to go back to hip hop. And like you're seeing this whole like kind of like, you know, divide of like, you know, what is the dominant sound, or like in SA like Amapiano, or it's hip hop where like you got artists like Nasty C and whatnot that are building bases in America per se. So yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah. So like back onto the tour, like what would you say was like your highlight overall the whole trip?
I'd say like experiencing just the sound and the nightlife, like in terms of like, you know, what it's like there, because I think they have a saying like music is life there, or music is culture, like Amapiano is life and whatnot, and you don't actually understand it until you actually get there on the ground. And like, you know, we came out of the airport. In the airport, the sound system, they're just playing Amapiano. You go to a shop a supermarket, they're just playing Amapiano. Like imagine a Tesco just playing, you know, Heady One on their side, that kind of thing. They're just playing that. Their taxis are like their big thing. They're just playing. So like it was like really like immersed in it, and then like the nightlife, just being there and seeing how people vibe. Like it was really like an enjoyable time and whatnot. And then obviously like being able to meet some of the artists that, you know, we've been able to react and sit down and talk with them was also like really an interesting eye-opening thing for us as well during that time. So yeah, I think I'd say like it was just the nightlife experience of nightlife and just being around people that obviously are from there. And like it wasn't like we were like, you know, celebs, we were actually just generally at normal parties kind of thing. We were just there vibing with normal people and just understanding what the SA culture is about. And I think most of the nights out were very like they party crazy there.
Man's got some stories he's trying to keep back.
Okay. Let's get down to the nitty gritty. So who fell off the wave the worst?
Exclusive.
Who fell off the wave? That's what we want to know.
Oh my god.
I'm trying to think. The thing is, to be fair, there wasn't anyone that actually like. But I'd say I blacked out in one party for a period. Like it was literally like I don't even know what happened, but it was you know what it was just we were just drinking from early. So like they've got a party called Sunday Roast, which is like a day party. Imagine like UK day party, free food. First drink you get is free. So like and like obviously we were there and like people were buying us drinks. We'd been drinking before. To get there, and then like we were just drinking. So I remember on the way that I just drank like 3/4 of Jack Daniel's bottle. I was already gone, kind of thing. And then we got a table with like the organizers, and then they had like these like drinks. They had like Bacardi there, like people from Bacardi, and they were just giving us drinks. And before I knew it, I think I was just gone. And then like I blacked out for like about. People said that was half an hour and whatnot, but then I just came back. It was more like a nap. It was like a power nap.
Know yourself. Well done. You played the game.
No. And the thing is, it's in the clips. Episode 2. Watch the end of episode 2. You see all play out. But yeah, I think generally we were all quite good. It was more of like that was our first weekend there. And after that, we knew we had to pace ourselves because like it was like we knew we couldn't drink as crazy as we did for that Sunday as we could, because like every night was parties. Like every night was parties, and because we also had press and moving around, when it gets to the end of the trip, you'll see how fatigued we were. Like we were fatigued coming to the end, coming to Kenya. Like Kenya was a night because Kenya was a bit more calmer for us because like SA was really proper high octane every night. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it sounds mad.
That's sick.
What about on the other side? Like, who would you say was like the trooper who literally was just like never faced?
So there's two ways to define a trooper, I think, on the trip, if I'm being honest. There's a trooper in the sense of somebody that is just like full on and it's just enjoying, even if they fall off their back. And then there's a trooper in the sense of that really just kept their composure for every aspect. For me, one trooper for me is me. I was just high octane, like, you know, like you said, I blacked out and I came back. That was just my energy throughout the trip. So I was like really, like if we're talking like football terms, I was like Liverpool 2 seasons ago, Gen pressing, just relentless.
I'm dead.
And then you had like maybe like Monique was very much more like a reserved. So she was like, she didn't really like go full on out. Like she was times where she'd go, but not full on out. Like she was just like, you know the ones where you take a lead, like a Jose Mourinho, you take a lead and you just try to contain that lead and not even try to concede kind of thing. That was part of the bus. Yeah. That was Monique. So yeah, it was like, that was like, I guess the variants of like who maybe stayed trooper. But everyone had their moments. Everyone had like their small moments here and there. Like it was, no one was immune just because of the nature of the trip and whatnot.
Yeah, no, I can imagine. So so is the next episode, does it drop here Monday? No.
So far we've dropped 4. So we dropped Joburg part 1 and 2 and Cape Town part 1 and 2. we're just on a break at the moment, because we've just been working obviously on the rebrand, and like we just have a website, and we're about to do like a sort of like just a whole schedule of like promoting our website. And then I don't want to give you a confirmed date because I still need people to get back to me, like to fully like aspects of like press and whatnot. But we're hoping that this Monday or latest following Monday we can start releasing. So then next episode is going to be Durban. So we go to Durban after that. Then there's a city in SA called Sun City, which has a massive resort. So we went to there. Then we came back to Joburg, and then Kenya is the final stop.
No, don't.
That's sick.
Yeah. So did you wanna like leave in any information for people or talk on any other topics?
I mean, yeah, in terms of like information, obviously we just had a big rebound. So we just like, because I think for us, putting out the doc was like a big step of like, because obviously up until now we've just been doing reactions, and we're trying, obviously now we're like showcasing that it's more than just reactions, it's a platform. So obviously we've got Ubunifu Radio, No Signal Radio that we do. And then, we're going to be having different content that's going to be coming out. There's a lot of big stuff that, unfortunately, because of Corona, that big projects that we had that have been all put on hold. So we're just trying to now just work, obviously, on like other aspects of like content that we can do while we're in this period. But I'll definitely like, check out the website to find out more about who we are, and what we're currently doing as well. Gonna have a few pieces coming up as well, like music pieces about artists and albums as well, if you want to find out more from across the continent. And then we're gonna what is it? We're gonna have a few interviews as well with artists coming up. So there's a few big artists that we're gonna be having on, both on radio and on our YouTube channel as well, that we're going to be pushing out. And yeah, I think just generally like trying to, what you're going to see is a big push from us trying to like highlight not just like within the continent, but also the diaspora as well, because it's a big, it's massive. Like there's artists from all over Europe that I think people should check out. Like I know, like for us, I thought we were like one of the first people that were really trying to push out the Afro trap coming out of France with MHD back in the day. And there's like a whole, like Europe is massive, and I think only slowly, I think the UK is realizing that if they actually work within Europe, they can literally, if they work alongside European artists, they can really like, break bread. Because I know a lot of the time they look for the States, but Europe's got a massive market there, like in France, Holland, and a lot of the artists like, they fuck with the UK. They normally do like, remixes or like try to do samples or songs from the UK. And I think if obviously now Corona is tough now, you can't really do much, but like I think you've seen one or two artists starting to do that. Like I think
Stormzy did one with
Stormzy did it with Ai Nakamura, who's like crazy numbers in France. But you've seen like other artists as well. Like I've seen H do it a few times. He's done a few collabs with Dutch artists, as well as DBE. They've done a few collabs as well with Dutch artists as well. So I think as more artists actually understand how like the business side, because I think America is good, but America is like it's a tough one to like, and like you'll get pockets, whereas in Europe you've got like a whole, obviously depending, Brexit now is happening, so I don't know, I've seen that the artists is going to be a bit peak for them now with the new regulations, which is unfortunate. But like, I think if artists from here can start to acknowledge like, Europe, there's a lot of artists that are wanting to work and collaborate. They'll really start breaking bread, and it'll be close to home as well, like not even having to go too far.
Yeah, no, 100. Yeah, I agree. Like obviously, like I feel like definitely summer 2020 would have been really the big push for the African sound, especially with like the Afro Nation and all of that. But hopefully we'll find a way to rebuild and like get back to it.
I mean, even Afro Nation, I think that's written off for this year as well.
Well, they shut down Glastonbury. Well, not shut down, but they've cancelled Glastonbury.
Cancelled Glastonbury.
So once that goes, then boy, it's gonna be. But it's what it is.
Yeah, it is what it is.
Virtual version.
Well, they're probably gonna have to, because I think their whole hope was that because they had like was it Chris Brown and these people, that are coming on. So it's gonna be hard to push it further for another year, I think, without having maybe some names not sticking on there. But it's a tough. I really feel for people in like the entertainment side of stuff because it's fucked. It's just
No, it's a
there's
mess.
no certainty. You don't know. Like even saying next summer, like not saying that we won't be able to fly out like places next summer, but there's no certainty like things like festivals can even happen next summer. Like
Definitely.
with a vaccine. So I don't know, man. We'll have to see how things pan out, I guess.
No, yeah, for sure. But yeah, no, I think we'll wrap it up there, man. Like, really appreciate you for coming on the show.
Cheers, bro.
Thank you for having me on, guys.
Yeah, and I hope like the rest of the rollout for the Ubuntu tour goes well, man. Like, we'll definitely keep supporting that as well.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it, and I appreciate the piece as well.
Oh yeah, no worries, man. No worries.
Thank you. All right, guys, man. Take it easy, man. Have a good evening and a weekend as much as you can. What can you do?
There's not much we can do, I suppose. I don't know.
What can you actually do apart from Netflix, PlayStation Online? What can
Has
you
anyone seen
actually...
Lupin, by the way?
I need to watch this weekend because I've just seen people talk about it. So I'm like, this weekend.
I tried to tell these two, and they were then laughing at me, saying it wasn't real.
Nah, guys, leave it.
I said he was watching the Harry Potter version. Like he just
is a Harry Potter spin-off.
Oh my word.
Nah, I've been seeing like loads of people talking about it, and it was on my. I saw it come out came out like what, a month ago or so.
Yeah,
it's been on my to do, but I've just busy. So like I was like, this weekend I've managed to get through a lot of the stuff from work and like Ubunifu that we had pile up from Christmas. I was like, I'm just gonna start getting into it. So